Hello, everyone. So I don't know about you, but I have been to 3 different arenas today. I just thought I would check them all out before coming here, you know. So thank you for your patience, and thank you, Ellie, so much for entertaining you while I was setting up. So we are talking about ES2019 features today. How many people are using ES2019 features now? Oh, nice. Good. I can show you something then, right? The agenda that I want to go over today is basically, first, I want a little itty-bitty intro to give you a little more information about ECMAScript and ECMA in general. So then we'll talk about the minor features, the major features, and then I have a teeny tiny outro. Just kind of, you know, clarifying that we're going to really focus on the features with a little bit of information on back and front. Who is this person running onto stage and immediately yelling at you? My name is Manicsic. I'm a developer advocate at this great company called Progress. Google developer expert, helped start Cincinnati Node School and Women Who Code. And the mother of this awkward ball of fluff, Tosh Magosh. But as of 5 months ago, I am also the mother of this adorable chunk of flesh, Nico. Yes, I did poorly Photoshop my baby onto me for a picture. but thank you. Don't worry, this isn't a Photoshop talk. His thighs are actually that big. Those are not Photoshopped. He'll be here today, so you can fact check me later. But let's go ahead and jump right in. I want to do a little bit of an intro about ECMA and ECMAScript. So, like any good superhero, I feel that ECMAScript has an origin story. And it starts out with ECMA International, which is actually, I learned doing this, I never cared what ECMA stood for. I probably should have. But I wanted to look into it now, and it's actually, some of you may know this, it's European Computer Manufacturers Association. I am very glad that we shortened it. And this started basically in 1960 because they saw how much we were using computers and that it needed to be standardized. So that's where ECMA came from. And from then, we knew we needed a standardization for JavaScript. And that's where ECMAScript basically came into play. And Sun, which is now Oracle, kind of had the rights to Java. Have you heard of Java? No? Okay. So they had the right to that, and that's probably like the only association that you'll see of Java and JavaScript. And so since that was taken, they went with the corresponding standard host, ECMA, and made ECMAScript. So now you know. So like, again, any superhero stories, we also have these pitfalls and weaknesses that quote unquote build character, right? And for ECMAScript, that was ES4 abandoned. This was the version 4 of ECMAScript that there were just so many political differences in the group that they just abandoned it. They couldn't release it. They couldn't get past their differences, unfortunately. And then another one is what I like to call ES6 years. Yes, that is the pun. It took almost 6 years for them to release ES6 after the version 5 in 2015. So from about 2009 in December to 2015 in June is just how long it took because it was so bloated. There were so many things they were so excited to release to JavaScript standard that it took quite a long time. But again, like the superhero Arch, from those ashes, we get some great things. For instance, TC39, which is the technical committee, really started to try harder to work together and reform and do a lot of work to make smaller packages come out. After that ES6 was so big, they decided, let's do something more manageable. Like developers, right? We break everything into smaller pieces so it's more manageable. And that's what they did with these new, after ES6, all the releases after that were much more manageable. So, just a real quick recap. I just want to say what the proposal process is because we're talking about all stage 4 proposals. And these, I always think I know what these mean, And then I'm dumbfounded when I remember the actual process of what these proposals are. Because there's stage 0, which is the straw man, free form, bringing in the idea. Stage 1, because you have to start at 1 because we're programmers. Or start at 0, sorry. And then stage 1 is the proposal, where you have the champion of that proposal come in and advocate for this idea. They bring in APIs. They talk about APIs, about semantics and algorithms. And then version 2 is actually a version of what will be in the specification. And if it makes it to stage 2, you have a very good likelihood that it's going to make it all the way through. But yet, there are still 2 more stages. Stage 3 is it's mostly finished. This is the candidate stage, and it's mostly finished but needs feedback. And this is the one that's funny to me. Stage 4, which we'll be talking about, is finished. And I have quotations around that because at this part, it's ready to be included in the standard, but they need to get test 262 acceptance. They have to do 2-spec compliant shipping. The implementations need to pass the tests. Significant practical experience with implementation needs done, and the ECMAScript spec editor must sign up on the spec edit. It sounds like a lot, but as we see, we have a bunch of features coming out, and they did a good job bringing them over to stage 4. So let's go ahead and jump into the minor features. So first, I just want to let you know what we're going to do is basically give a little high level what the feature is, the name of it, who brought it to, who's the champion of it, or the champions, and then a little code snippet, and then a little bit about the compatibility. So first we have trim start and trim end. Has anybody here used trim left and right? Oh, nice, some people. So this is pretty self-explanatory in a way. It's basically taking white space away from the left, or from the start or the finish. It used to be called trim left and trim right, and that is supported in many browsers, but now this is the new alias because not all languages are, have a left and right, or they have a left and right, but some have different ways of approaching it. So start and end just make much more sense. And then basically, this helps you kind of classify what is white space as well, whether it's a hard enter or a space, tabs. So there's a whole process to it. But it is as simple as this. You're basically taking a string that has spaces around it. So a use case of this is, say, you're filling out a form, and basically how it goes, maybe in a CSV or something, you're getting too many extra spaces. So you need to trim it down. You get trim start and trim end. So you see start, finish, spaces removed, and then trim takes both off. And there you can see the compatibility is pretty good across the board, i.e. is a no. Who'd have thunk? Anyway, so symbol prototype description. This is basically a string parameter that you can pass on to symbol and you don't have to convert it anymore to a string. And this basically gives you the getter now for the symbol's description. When they made this, it's basically, their thought was to help teams communicate across code and communicate their intention for the code. And I read a comment by Joe Grossberg, who was saying, like, shouldn't we use documentation for this? So it may be polarizing, which you figure, should you have docs for this? Should this be something in your code? I always figure the more places we can put information that isn't comments, the better. You be the judge. So this is what it looks like. Basically, we have created a symbol. We passed in a string that is now the description. And when we log it out, we have symbol logged that contains that parameter. Or we can say, use the getter.description and get just that string. This, again, is pretty available. I got these compatibility charts from MDN because they fit really well in slides. But some of the information wasn't exactly right. Like, this is available in Node 11, and they had it as marked as no. But then I realized above their compatibility charts, they have a link to GitHub, so you can correct any compatibility errors that you see. So we just have to be proactive. Okay, optional catch binding. Do a lot of people out here use try-catch much? Yeah, we're supposed to, right? So this is basically in your catch clause, having a parameter to bind to the exception. And a lot of people were using this and throwing it away, because it would cause an error if you didn't have this parameter. A common use case for this is, say you're using JSON parse, and you know that it's going to throw an error if it's not JSON. But you don't care about the error, you just want it to parse anything that's JSON. So you throw it, you log it, you just don't think about it. So in their minds, this was superfluous, right? It was something that you were writing, it was extra keystrokes. Like, who has time for extra keystrokes, right? So they decided to get rid of the param, and this ended up being one of the most controversial minor features, but we will get to that later. This is basically what it looks like. Like I said earlier, you're passing a parameter to your catch clause, and then usually you'll want to log it out or get that information, do something with it. Now you can basically pass up that parameter completely. It's again, you can see the chart. I could also just pause and let you look at the chart for a second instead of talking over it. But this is where that is an interesting situation when the most active issue just says why. It's like, okay, and so a lot of what I do is read through issues, be it with node modules or with ECMAScript. It's really, even just as a society, view into society, these are some really, really interesting thoughts going into how we build and standardize our language. It's very inspiring to see how much people care about it, because we use it every day, right? So I highly recommend looking into this, but basically how it started is the person that opened the issue was saying that they were pretty scared. Let me just say what he said. They were pretty scared that allowing this may make devs forget about error handling. I mean, does everybody here do a good job handling their errors? Silence. So this is basically, he was saying it's making production code untraceable, and that he thinks that errors should be logged, and we should be considering these errors. We shouldn't just be swallowing them. It could lead to just messy coding, irresponsible coding. And a few things of the comeback is basically that this is making it more intentional. So if you're leaving off the parameter, you're leaving off the parameter. It could be even riskier to leave it and so that people just automatically throw that log and don't think of it. And there are some cases where what you are getting back you can't log, or it just holds up the program. So what you're doing here is kind of taking the road of the least evil, one may say, and you're quietly swallowing your errors, and your application can perform its main job, and you're not compromising the ability to troubleshoot. You can always add this. It's not an option that you can no longer add the parameter. Okay, so we'll go at a little bit of a quicker pace to get you all moving, but prototype.sort is now stable. This is an ECMAScript spec, and it made me immediately wonder, what is stable? So this is basically, it's a stable sorting algorithm. If you're looking at a list and they have the two keys have the same value, they should, after sort, be in the same order, which I'll show you in the code. One quick note, no pun intended, but this pun, cut to the quick, is intended. It's getting rid of quicksort and instead using timsort, which was made by Tim Peters in 2002. And he's basically making it more proficient by, I want to make sure I get this right, he's using binary insertion sort and improving the merge sort, which actually allows it to work way better with arrays that are already sorted. So it's a very interesting read, and another one that I highly recommend digging into one day while you're waiting for the bus or on the train. But this is what it looks like. So you see here we have multiple keys of A that have varying values. In this order on top, it goes ACB. So when we sort it by age, we should get ACB in that same order, and it does that now everywhere. So there you go. Moving on to major features. Again, we are going through this pretty quickly, and please feel free to come chat with me after. I love talking about this stuff. I'll even do another little talk if you want. But so Flat and FlatMap is very exciting. Is anybody using Flat or FlatMap yet? Yeah, right? How great is FlatMap? It's funny how exciting it is to get like what features are coming out next. And Flat and FlatMap were definitely ones for me. So Flat is basically it's recursively concatenating to the array dependent on how many in your parameter, how many levels you're telling it to go down. And and then FlatMap, very simply putting, it's kind of taking map and then flat. So you're mapping through an array and then flattening it to a single level array. But of course, there is more to it. With map, you are getting exactly one output element. It returns a single value. And with FlatMap, it's translated to 0 or more output elements. The interesting thing is it can also return non-array values, but that is less common. Then there is my favorite part of it, which is Smooshgate. Did anybody hear about Smooshgate? So, I mean, okay, again, we go to the T after the code. So, first of all, with Flat in general, so you see we have an array with a nested array with array inside of it. So there's 3 levels here. So if we just do Flat, it defaults to 1 layer, and we have that array that's still nested in there. But if we pass 2 to that original array, it nests it all down, or flattens it all down to 1. And then with FlatMap, you're basically, with map, you get an array of arrays. FlatMap, you can get back just a flat array of those. So, Smooshgate. The thing to me about Smooshgate is this, to me, is like a visual representation of when I tell really corny knock-knock jokes. Like, there are 74 thumbs down on this guy's joke. So, poor Michael, and he's actually the one that is the champion of FlatMap, or one of the champions. And so what happened here is MooTools had a polyfill of flatten, and they wanted, ECMAScript wanted there to be flatten as the name of this feature. So my husband's also a programmer, and I told him about this, and he was like, "What's MooTools?" Which is a lot of people's reactions. So basically, you know, you're taking kind of legacy code, and it's stunting the progression of what people consider the progression of code. So there was a lot of discussions around this, basically making sure that we are adapting correctly, that we're not leaving anybody behind. So they changed it from flatten to flat. As we see now, we have Flat and FlatMap. And there is no Smoosh. There was never a Smoosh. There may still be a Smoosh, but probably not. Compatibility-wise, this is where it is available. All right, last but not least, we have object from entries. I actually I'm a big fan of object.entries, but object from entries is taking a list of key value pairs and converting it to an object, which is the opposite of object.entries. But these siblings actually work really well together, and a good representation of that is Axel Rauschmeier in his duality.com website. He actually looks at object.entries and object from entries and utilizes them to recreate different functions from underscore. And I'm a huge fan of that. When I saw that article, I was really excited because I was trying to explain to someone how one of the biggest points of advancing the language, of making the standard, is we make all these shortcuts, or I would hardly say shortcuts actually, very intricate libraries to make up for what we may see as shortcomings in the JavaScript language to do the job that we need to do. And so underscore was one of those libraries. And again, not a shortcut, lots of work, lots of really great work in the underscore library. And now we see when we bring something to the language like object from entries, how we could advance the language to then make it so we wouldn't need this other library. And this is what it looks like. Basically, we start with an object that has key value pairs. When we do object.entries and pass that object in, we can get an array of arrays. And that helps us iterate through there, use all of our array functionality on it. And then when we want to take it out of there and treat it as an object, we do object.fromEntries and put those entries in to create the object. And this is where that is available. Again, it is available on Opera no matter what MDN says. And then real quick, we won't go over these, but again, if you want to have a lunch conversation with me, there's some really interesting things I found out digging into, looking into well-formed JSON stringify, the JSON superset, which somebody was saying, when people in Spanish-speaking countries say JSON, some they say joteson, and I think that's beautiful, so I just had to pass that on. But anyway, then there's also the prototype 2-string revision. With looking into these, I dug into Unicode and ASCII a lot, and there's a lot of really cool history to that. But for now, I will just do a little teeny tiny intro to say that on this stage at 1400 hours, you will get to see the amazing TC39, part of the TC39 group, to answer all of your questions that you may have about what's coming, what have been, how to use things, and their decision making. And I also just want to, I know I personified these two groups as superheroes, but I am indeed very grateful that they put the time and energy into basically giving us a better coding experience, or at least, putting their efforts into trying to give us a better coding experience and make JavaScript better for us. So I am very grateful, and I am very grateful that you are all here today. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.